So this is the other subtopic under the tribal category, that is mainstream attitude towards the tribes. So colonialism has brought about a lot of changes even in the tribal society. As you know, when India was under the British rule, a lot of changes, like the change from the very core to the periphery, has taken place. From small changes to large changes have taken place in India. So the colonialism or the British rule has brought about changes even in the tribal society. The tribal societies were being encouraged by the moneylenders. So when the British rule began, when colonialism took over, so the tribal societies were being attacked by the moneylenders. Okay, all the moneylenders were benefiting, or they were dominating the tribals. The tribals began to lose their land and their access to forests due to government's policy of reservation and introduction of mining. So as you know, tribals, they usually, at that point of time, they usually lived in the forests, okay, and used the natural resources, and they didn't give out any land for rent. So whatever they got from the forest was how they lived their life. So but slowly, as colonialism began, the tribals, they began to lose their land. Okay, their land was taken by all of these money lenders, and then their access to forest were, they could not access themselves to the forest, they could not go to the forest, which was their means of livelihood, which was their means of sustaining their living. It was because the government's policy of reservation, the government began to reserve, okay, the forests and all, and the government also introduced mining, and because of that, all of these government policies, the tribals began to lose their land and their access to forests. In other areas, land rent was the primary source of surplus extraction. So in the mainstream Indian society, or the caste based Hindu society, where there was state government politics, there the people used to take land rent. Okay, land was given out for cultivation to a particular family, and they had to pay rent. Okay, pay rent to the landlords, right? So that way, the other families, they earn money, they earn surplus. Okay, as you have learned surplus value, which is given by Karl Marx. So that is the surplus extraction, the extra money, or the money to maintain their, or to sustain their life, was it was like they got it from land rent. Okay, but then the tribals, they did not practice all these land rent activities. All they did for the tribals, it was mainly the appropriation of natural resources, which was also the main source of income for the colonial government. So all that the tribals did was, they went to the forest, they got themselves whatever they required. Okay, so they worshipped the forest, and they considered the forest as a part of their own, and not something through which they can earn money, but something which will help them sustain their lives. But all the natural resources that came from the forest, it was also a source of income for the government. So there was a conflict. Okay, the colonial government set up excluded and partially excluded areas, beyond which the non-tribals were not allowed to enter nor regulate it. So due to all of this conflict, the government set up some areas as excluded and partially excluded. So those areas were excluded, they were taken out, okay, from the mainstream Indian society. So in that area, only the tribals lived, and no outsider could go inside that area. No non-tribals, no person who is not a tribal could enter that excluded and partially excluded area, and they were not allowed to regulate it. Apart from these areas, the colonial government ruled through local kings or headmen. So the excluded and the partially excluded areas was given to the tribals, but all of the areas apart from that area was ruled by the colonial government, and they appointed some local kings or headmen. Okay, so who would look after that particular area, who worked under the colonial government. Some scholars who supported isolation, okay, isolation means to be left alone, argued that the tribals need protection from the landlord, traders, moneylenders, Hindus, and the Christian missionaries. So the isolationists, these people who thought that the tribals should be left alone. Okay, they proposed that the tribals, they require protection from all of these landlords, the moneylenders, the traders, the Hindus and the Christian missionaries. Whereas on the other hand, the integrationists, this means the tribals, sorry, the scholars who support the integration, okay, the assimilation, the coming together of the Hindu, the caste-based Hindu and the tribals. So these integrationists argued that the tribals were backward Hindus and their problems should be addressed as other backward classes. So they were of the view that the tribals were other backward classes who came under the caste, Hindu caste society, and their problem should be seen as one of the problem of the backward classes, as they wanted the tribes and the caste-based Hindu society to integrate, to come together. Various welfare schemes were introduced for the tribals. Okay, so then in order to safeguard the rights of the tribals, in order to safeguard their life, many welfare schemes, policies, programs were set up by the government, like the 5-year plans, tribal sub plans, tribal welfare blocks, etc. Okay, please remember such names. But the integration of the tribal has taken place according to the needs and benefits of the mainstream society. So the way in which the tribals have integrated, have come together, or have settled in the mainstream society, all of this has taken place according to the needs, interests, benefits of the mainstream society, of the mainstream Hindu society. The needs and interests of the tribals have been neglected. Okay, so all of their needs, their interests, all of the things that would benefit them have not been given importance and have been neglected. And these tribals, they have also lost their lands and forest.